Okay, so I've wanted to make this video for quite a while now. I sat down today to work on it, and it's dawned on me that I'm not sure I've ever really watched a book review before. Well, I guess that's not totally true. So if you're a book review connoisseur, this is probably gonna suck. I'm just making it up as I go. This book was written by Andy Greene, and I use written loosely there as it's more of compiled by Andy Greene. And I don't mean that as a dig. He did a tremendous amount of work to pull this off, but I figured that's probably a good place for us to start, is that this isn't just a narrative written by Andy Greene about The Office, which is what I expected when I opened up this book. Instead, Greene compiled hundreds of interviews he did over a couple of years into a narrative covering a span of all 9 seasons, which I really wasn't expecting when I opened up this book, and I was delighted to see interviews from Greg Daniels, from Steve Carell, from Michael Schur, from all the people that I talk about on these field guides all the time. It was really exciting to hear firsthand from them, and Greene does such a superb job of just putting this all together in a way that creates a narrative rather than him just simply telling it. For example, one of my favorite things early in the book was a discussion on the original version of The Office, which I never really had much appreciation for, but once reading through this, getting the context, hearing directly from the creators, Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, was a great lens to watch this show through. So instead of me just carrying on, I actually caught up with Mr. Greene to discuss the book and his inspiration for why he created it in the first place. So enjoy. I told you before I'd send you a list of questions, and you said, no, I just want to roll with it off the top of my head. So
yeah, always.
I'm going to throw some stuff at you. You wrote this book. Are you a fan of The Office?
Yes, I am a huge fan of The Office. Been a fan going back several years to the very beginning.
Okay, so just some quick questions then. What's your favorite episode?
You know, I go back and forth. I think for years I said Dinner Party. I think it's Business School now. I think Business School is The Office at its absolute best.
What do you think is the worst episode of The Office?
I don't like Gettysburg very much, and I would say Pool Party also. I think both of those. I think that towards the end, they started to really venture just outside of The Office a lot. And because they were really just desperate to get new ideas. And when those whiffed, they whiffed so hard. And I think Gettysburg is just a 22-minute whiff. That not one line lands. It's just an abomination. Okay,
so could you maybe share your background with us and how you came to write this book?
Sure. I'm a big music guy. I've been a Rolling Stone for 16 years now. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I sort of got my career started in high school, and I worked at Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which got me the internship at Rolling Stone, and I sort of learned to write there. I wasn't a writer until I got there. I was sort of on-the-job training there. And I never really thought about a book much. I thought of a few music books, but so many music books, they've been done. I mean, I love Bob Dylan. There's 1,000 Dylan books. I love Neil Young and Springsteen, but it's all been done. And I was always thinking, what's something fresh? What's something that hasn't been written about? And I was home for Thanksgiving break in 2017 now, I guess. And I was bored. I was with my parents. I was going through Netflix. I was like, guys, I want to show you The Office. So I was scrolling through it, and I just saw Dinner Party, and I love that one. So I go, hey, I'll show you this one. And we watched it, and it was so damn funny. I mean, I'd seen it, like 10 times, but to watch it again for the first time in years, I realized it just was so genius. And I Googled it, and I saw the 10-year anniversary was coming up in a few months. So I went back to work, and I pitched a big oral history of just Dinner Party. And I sort of got obsessed with it. I interviewed the writers, which are Gene Sinitsky and Andy Eisenberg and Paul Feig, who was the director. Then I got Jack Krasinski on the phone, and Jenna Fischer, and Ed Helms, and Angela Kinsey, and I interviewed Greg Daniels. But I had months to go until the anniversary was up, so I kept digging. I got Beth Grant on the phone, who was Dwight's babysitter. I got the singer of the song. I got his original version of the song. I just kept digging into it. And the more obscure the person I talked to, I found the better their stories were. So we ran it at like 5,000 words, and the traffic was off the charts. It was just insane traffic for it. And so I went to Amazon.com, searched The Office, saw no other books about it. And I'm like, here's a totally fresh book. There are people who worked on the show who have amazing stories that have never been interviewed about these stories. You know, that no one's ever bothered to get Beth Grant on the phone to talk about being Dwight's sitter. So I pitched the book, I sold it, and I just dug in deep.
When did the idea, like, for how you wanted to organize the book, and how did you get all of these quotes, and where did you keep all of this information?
It was tricky, because to do one episode is pretty simple. There's one writing team, there's one director, and since it was outside the office, it was a smaller cast of people than the office. It was just people that were at the dinner party. So to scale it to do 201 episodes, do the whole run of the show, was unimaginably difficult. I started by making a very long list. I go, here's the whole cast. Here's the key writers, here's the directors, here's the producers, here's the editors. I made a giant file of names. I found as many contacts as I could off IMDb Pro and various sources. And I started to just put requests out. Every day I go to work, I'd email about 10 people. And it was a slog. And then I would interview somebody, and at the very end I'd say, hey, do you know anybody else I should talk to? And they'd say, well, my friend Brian Whittle, he was the boom mic operator, and he has great stories. I will give you his number. So with each person I talked to, it just built and built. And then I would get them transcribed. And I did all of it in just Google Documents. I would get them transcribed. I'd make folders. I would read the interviews, and then I would copy and paste quotes out of the interviews into various categories. I'd have a category called like filming the office. I'd have a category that was called stress relief, or it was called Creed, or that was called, like the warehouse workers. I had about 100 folders of categories, and I would just put all these quotes into various folders. And I started to sort of think about chapters and think about structure and think of how to tell this story. I did almost 90 interviews, which was a real lot. And some people I interviewed 3 times. I interviewed Andy Greene like 3 times for 2 hours each time. I have 6 hours of talking to just one line producer. So it was, thousands of pages of transcript. So it took me a very long time. It was a nightmare of sorts.
What was the process like then, digging through all of that to try to actually come up with a narrative? And just expositing here a little bit, what I really enjoyed about reading through it was that you had a narrative just by producing quotes from various people. And I thought that was a genius way to present all the information.
Yeah, I wanted to do it as an oral history because I did that on Dinner Party. I love telling stories and the voices of people that were there. So that was kind of my challenge. And the entire time I was writing, I was thinking about structure. I didn't want to just go straight linear. I wanted to I knew every season it would be a chapter, of course, and a long chapter. And I thought about the key elements of each season, that all 9 seasons, they have their own stories to them and their own arcs. But I would think to myself, you know what? I think that the camera team is a chapter. I think the set's a chapter. I think the warehouse guys are a chapter. I think Creed's a chapter. I kept thinking about what are the great stories I have that would work as side things. So I kept thinking about showing the same story of The Office from every possible angle. I was thinking just what is interesting to me as a fan in a different way to tell the story.
That's a great segue then. So what stands out to you as some of the moments when you were listening to someone tell a story where you just thought, does anybody know this?
God, there's so many. I mean, it was the writers who were the best people to talk to. I spoke to a bunch of people on the cast, but the writers were the backbone of the whole thing. There's people like I interviewed Brent Forrester, who's an incredible writer. And he casually brought up that they almost hired James Gandolfini to be the new boss in the 8th season. That shocked me. I forget who first told me about the horse in Niagara Falls, but one of the writers said there was almost a horse. I think it was Randy Cordray who told me first about the horse debate, and then every other person I spoke to, I asked about it. So I loved hearing about stuff they didn't do. I love ideas for episodes that didn't happen. I became very fixated on finding paths that they didn't go down, that they talked about.
This will be a part of my review of the book, which is thumbs up. You didn't see.
Thank you.
You didn't see that. It's over here. We'll go two thumbs
that.
up.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. I was happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, obviously, thank you so much, Mr. Greene, for sitting down and sharing your inspiration with us. I really appreciate your time. So as for me, I really enjoyed the book. Not only just for the background details that I'm going to be able to use for this channel, but also it's just fascinating to hear from the creators themselves and from the background people, from everyone affiliated with the show. He did so much work to pull this off. And so I just really, really appreciate what this book became. And if nothing else, it's going to be a nice decor for my wall in the office once that's ready to go. So if you're new to the channel, go check out our office field guides. I go into a lot of detail on every single episode. We talk about the deeper meaning, I give out some dundies, and I also make up some whatever random crap that episode inspires me to make up. So right now we're mid-season 3. Next week I'm on the return. If you're interested in the book, you can check the link below. As always, like, subscribe, and if you've read the book, leave it in the comments. I want to hear what you have to say, and I'm sure other people would like to hear from other people, not just me on the topic. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.